Thank you, and great to catch some of those pitches, some really interesting ideas there. Now, I'm going to be speaking to someone who I think needs very little introduction to this crowd. You may well know him formerly as developing the Angry Birds brand at Rovio. He's now at a new gaming company, Lightneer. You may also know him as a founder of Slush Festival in Helsinki. It is the one and only the Mighty Eagle, Peter Vesterbacka.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you, Peter. So we're here to talk about the future of gaming. But first, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about the present, because you left Rovio in 2016, and you're now at Lightneer. Tell us a bit about what you're doing at Lightneer.
Yeah, so at Lightneer, we're making learning games, actually fun learning games, and the way I like to put it, that we're actually making learning games that don't suck. So, I think that the problem with kind of like learning games is that most of them use learning as an excuse for not making great games. So it's like, Peter, you have to understand that it's a learning game, meaning that that's why it's not very good. And what we wanted to do was actually to make fantastic games. And we actually created the first one we've been working on now for 2 years. So it's a game called Big Bang Legends. And the idea is that we want to create a fantastic game. So we brought on board some of the people who were involved in making Angry Birds. So have a bit of a track record there. And so we have the best game designers and best character designers. But then we also brought on board, or actually we started working with CERN in Geneva. So I wanted to have the best scientists. And then also the best pedagogues, because again, it's about learning. So we brought on board or create partnerships with University of Helsinki and Oxford. So, they're pretty good at that. And then started working on Big Bang Legends 2 years ago, and now on that kind of like journey to make fantastic games with learning.
So how do you make an educational game that doesn't suck? What's the secret?
I think the first thing is really that it has to be a great game, and what we've done, so we kind of like started with that, and then like fantastic characters, and I think that really making a game as you would like any hit game, and of course, I mean, it's super difficult to make hit games, so if anybody ever tells you that that they know how to make hit games, I would love to meet with that person because I think it's like super difficult, and you never know. But anyway, so we're trying to make a hit game, and of course, the way you go about that, you create a fantastic game, fantastic characters. You need to have kind of like the best of everything, and kind of like that as a starting point. But then throwing in, of course, then the best science and kind of like pedagogues and all of that. But then maybe best way to look at this is that. We've now been playtesting the game in schools, so basically, testing on real kids. So that's always kind of like the best way to do it. And we've been to schools in Finland, in Singapore, in Argentina, in Slovakia, many places. So we always go there, and then we start by asking the class and 6-year-olds, 16-year-olds, so kind of like pretty broad spectrum. And then we asked them, okay, so like, how many of you love games? And then, not surprisingly, most of the people in the class raised their hand that, they play games, they love playing games, great. And then we tell them that, okay, that's, fantastic, and have you played games in class? And then there's always one or two, that have the courage to say that, and sometimes it happens that they play games in class. And then we typically tell them that, fantastic, that you should play more games. And when we were in Singapore, then you could tell, the teachers in the class were like, oh no, now we let these crazy Finnish people into the class and they're telling our kids, to play more games. Not a good idea. But anyway, so then after that we asked them that, okay, so you love playing games. How many here love particle physics? And then typically, okay, with the 16-year-olds, one or two, raise their hand and they kind of like particle physics. Okay, the 6-year-olds always, go that, what is that? What is particle physics? So, good start. But then we let them play the game for like 15 minutes. And yeah, then they play the game, and then we collect the iPads back, and then we ask them that, okay, did you like the game? And typically we get like very good feedback. Get everything from like best game ever and like really love the game. Could we please like continue playing for the rest of the like class as well? And then after that we ask them that, okay, so you liked the game, but did you learn anything? And no matter if we're like in Finland or in Singapore or wherever, always the same answer that the kids tell us that no, we didn't learn anything. And then of course if you spent like 2 years building a game that is about learning, you get a bit concerned that okay, we created a great game, but it doesn't work. They didn't learn anything. But then we asked them that, okay, you didn't learn anything. Can you tell us how many quarks in a proton? So anybody here know that? Anybody? Okay, yeah. So it's not like obvious. So I mean, I have to admit that I'm not into like particle physics that much myself. So I wouldn't have known that. Okay, actually 3 quarks in a proton. But guess what? After 50 minutes of playing the game, every single kid in the class, no matter if they're 6 or 16, me, 3 quarks in a proton. So they all learn that in like 15 minutes. I say, okay, cool. So can you name 5 atoms? 5 of the characters like this that you found in the game. And then they go, yeah, of course, hydrogen, helium, lithium, and so on. So just by playing the game for like 15 minutes, they learn all of that. And that's, again, like no matter if we're in Finland or Singapore, same reaction, and it works. And then the really cool thing is that the teacher's reaction is also always the same, that, what? We've never seen the kids learn so much so fast, and best of all, while they're having fun. They didn't even realize that they were learning. So again, I mean, we gotten to that level now, so we know that the learning kind of like works, and we started with particle physics. I mean, we always ask that, why did you start with particle physics? So we said that, of course, I mean, we wanted to start with something easy, so particle physics. Everybody else typically starts with like languages or like something like that. So we thought, okay, we'll start with the Big Bang, the beginning of the universe and like everything, so Big Bang legends. And yeah, I mean, 2 years in the making, we're still not out globally because we're not like perfectly happy with the game and the performance, but we're getting there, and at least the learning works, so we'll see. But yeah, and then we'll go on and do like chemistry and biology and languages and geography and what have you, but that's the plan anyway.
Great, fantastic. And so moving on to talk about the future of gaming, because I know you have a lot of thoughts about this. The first thing I wanted to ask you about is something that we spoke about on the phone not long ago, which is your view on China. Because I know that you think that China plays a very important role in the future of gaming and the future of industry more generally.
The world.
The future of the world. You travel there a lot. You speak a bit of...
So I always say here at this point that, like, Dajia Ha, Tsai Beijing Beijing Dashuasi, Baga Chinchi de Hanyu, Dansher Wada Hanyu Haibu One May. So I don't know, how many here speak Chinese? Anybody?
I don't know if that's impressive because
cool,
I have
so then
no
I can
idea
like
if
get
you
away
were
with
speaking it
anything.
correctly or not.
But basically what I said, that I spent 8 weeks at Beijing Da, so Beijing Normal University in Beijing, studying Chinese, and that's why my Chinese is not yet perfect, but that was already like directly after I left Rovio in 2016. I took 8 weeks, spent that in Beijing, so got myself like an Airbnb in a totally Chinese neighborhood, and then then I had 3 teachers every day. So basically I started at 8 o'clock, first teacher 2 hours, then no break, second teacher 2 hours, lunch, and then third teacher 2 hours, and I was the only guy in class. So it was like pretty intense, and then I had to draw all these characters in the evening. So it was like this Chinese brute force way of learning Chinese. So, but yeah, so I think that China is of course massive opportunity, and okay, being from Finland, I mean, China is like next door. I mean, for me, get on a plane 6 hours, I'm in Beijing, 7 hours I'm in Shanghai, and we also have like flights to kind of like Xi'an, Chongqing, Nanjing, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, bunch of places in China. So it's kind of like neighboring country, and I go to China twice a month typically. So it's where kind of like the action is. It's like Silicon Valley on steroids, so things are moving like super fast and tons of startups, tons of money. It's like super energizing to kind of like check out the scene there. But it's also the biggest market when it comes to education, so like with the learning games and all that, I think there's no doubt that it's going to be the biggest market for Lightneer and Big Bang Legends. Because actually what happens in China, and you can kind of like see that when I kind of like talk about the game, I don't even get in, like just like maybe 30 seconds into the pitch, and I can already see the parents in China, they take their phone out, they start looking, and then they ask me, so the game is not out here yet, where can I find it? And this never, or let's say, sometimes it happens here in Europe, but in China, 30 seconds into the pitch about learning games, they're already like looking for the game and trying to find it. So just based on that, I think that it's going to be a huge market. But then looking at games in general, China is already the biggest market. I mean, that's kind of like very clear that it's also going to be even widening the gap. I mean, just looking at 1.3 billion Chinese people, and they're all most of them playing games. So it's huge. And also, I mean, if you look at like then the business side, I mean, Supercell 10 billion acquisition by Tencent. So we also see this connection: China, Europe, China, Finland in this case, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. I mean, there are tons and tons of massive games companies in China that you never heard of, and then they are looking for studios and talent to acquire here in Europe like all the time. I think that every week hosting some delegation from China in Helsinki, and they're shopping for studios. Where's the next Rovio? Where's the next Supercell? So that's like very cool, and then I think also big opportunity for all of us to go there. So I think there's not easy, but no market is easy. So we kind of need to understand, and then speaking the language kind of helps. So I think that was kind of like why I spent the 8 weeks like trying to learn Chinese.
And what kind of games do you think will sort of characterize the next stage in gaming, the sort of immediate future? What direction is the market heading in?
Yeah, so I think that one thing that then there's always, we have people getting carried away by like, that VR, like greatest thing ever and blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying that, fine, it's kind of like interesting, but it's not a market for like next 5 years or if ever. But I think that games, and we always say that Rovio, that we're not like a technology company, we're making games, we're making entertainment, and then we use, of course, the technology that's out there to make even better experiences. But I think that my answer has been actually the same for the last, 20 years. When I'm asked like about the future of games, I always say that it's mobile, and I still think that it's still like it's the the past and current and future. It's very clear that the center of gravity when it comes to games, I mean, everybody, if I ask here that, how many has a smartphone, all the hands will go up. So, like that's, of course, then the gaming device that you kind of like always have with you, and then that's kind of like where most of the games are played. So I think that's not changing anytime soon. Then I think that pretty bullish about things like AR and kind of like mixing, reality and virtuality, like in new ways. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. And of course, Pokemon Go is a great example, I think, of actually a couple of things. But one thing there, it's a great example of the power of brand. So many people all over the planet grew up playing Pokemon. Pokemon has been around for like 20 years. So then when you have a fantastic brand like Pokemon, and then there is a new way of experiencing that, and it's on your phone and it's free. So again, of course, everybody in the games industry knows that free to play is like where it's at, and that's again like the dominant design. So then when you have fantastic brand, you throw in free to play and then a bit of new gameplay, like in Pokemon Go. You can always argue, was it a fantastic game or not, but it was at least providing some novelty, and you had people walking around and running around the streets catching Pokemon. So it like fit perfectly with the brand and the story. So I think that that kind of created a perfect storm. But very important here that I think that the future of games, mobile, obviously, but then also brand. So I think that brand in any competitive market, that's super important. And you need to think about like how to stand out. I mean, there are 700 new games coming to the App Store every single day, and that's not like decreasing. So then you need to make sure that you stand out. And of course, one way is doing things differently. Another way is that, okay, let's take a brand that everybody already knows, and Pokemon Go is a great example of that, that then it just like, flies. So mobile and brand would be what I answer, and then throw in a bit of technology like, some AR or whatever for novelty, and then you have like some of the success like elements for like future gaming, but yeah, mobile and brand. So it's not like, for the tech people here in the audience, not maybe very exciting that, oh, it's like more of the same, but I think that that's really kind of like what we're looking at in like the near future anyway.
Great. Now, this is supposed to be a discussion about gaming, but I can see we don't have much time left, and I absolutely have to ask you about your tunnel.
Oh, right.
Because as well as all of your gaming efforts and your work with startups, you are currently trying to build a tunnel between Finland and Estonia. Mm-hmm. Tell me why.
Yeah, so I mean, we're just a year and a half ago decided to make the tunnel happen. It's been like discussed for hundreds of years, or I think the first like plan was 1871 or something like that. So of course we have a fantastic startup ecosystem, both sides of the bay. Refer to that like as the finest Bay Area. Apparently there's some Bay Area in the US as well, but I mean we have the finest, so anyway, so so we basically decided to make that happen. And I mean, anybody here been to Slush? Cool. So then you know that it's like super difficult to find a hotel, and the Airbnb prices are crazy. So now, because we'll have a tunnel, then like there's only 20 minutes between Helsinki and Tallinn. So you can also like stay in Tallinn and still come to Slush. So we kind of like double the hotel capacity like overnight. So it's like pretty cool. So the main real reason that I'm kind of like sharing first time ever is that we need more hotel capacity for Slush. So we need to build a tunnel. It's only 15 billion, so like it's a very reasonable way of expanding the capacity of Slush accommodation. So that's kind of like why we're doing it. But there are some other reasons, but I would say that this is probably the most important thing, and everybody here in the room who's been to Slush can totally relate to this. And then it's also very easy for us to come to Latitude 59 in May, so the nice, super nice startup event in Tallinn. So it's just about making this collaboration between the cities much easier. And Helsinki and Tallinn are really like the same metropolitan area. And with 3 million people, we're bigger than Stockholm, bigger than Amsterdam. So we create gravity, and then everybody from St. Petersburg and Stockholm will kind of like move into the area as well. So it's kind of like how the world works. So creating gravity.
So, I mean, is this really going to happen? You said that 15 billion.
Yeah,
Where is that coming from?
So the funding most likely will come from kind of like Belt and Road, so this IDA-ILU, so this Chinese like New Silk Road initiative. It's $1 trillion, so it's pretty big. So we expect maybe 70% to come from various investors in China, then local pension funds. Right now we're working with Pöyry, Eijins and Fira, so two big engineering companies. Pöyry is one of the big like engineering companies globally. They were actually involved in building the Gotthard Tunnel. That is actually the longest like railroad tunnel until now. Of course, this will be the longest, over 100 kilometers, so it's pretty cool. And so we expect to start construction already this year. So right now we're working on the various like environmental permits and all of that. And it's a very aggressive kind of like schedule, but we've given ourselves like 2-3 years to kind of like work on the permits. Then it takes a bit less than 5 years to actually build it. And 24th of December 24, so 24/12/24, learned in China that you have to pick these kind of like cool number combinations. So then like that brings you luck. Easy to remember too. So Christmas 24, the first trains will be running. So that's kind of like what we're executing on right now. And I'm very confident that we'll be able to pull it off. I mean, technically it's super easy. I mean, yeah, but it really is. I mean, ask the experts. I'm obviously not an expert on that, but it's not like very challenging technically. It's like solid like bedrock from Helsinki to outskirts of Tallinn. Then there's a bit of sand and clay, easy to deal with. And yeah, with the current drilling technology, we're going to use 12 of these TBMs, tunnel boring machines. There are 3 major players, so China, Herenknecht, and Hitachi. So, we'll see which one we pick. But yeah, anyway, I mean, very easy to get this built in. The actual drilling or boring takes less than 2 years. So then we just like build the stations. And there's going to be 4 stations. So all 4 stations are designed to host like 50,000 new people. So there's going to be apartments for 50,000 new people in the kind of like station areas. So 200,000 new inhabitants for the Helsinki-Tallinn metropolitan area, because we don't want to become like the next Stockholm or next Silicon Valley, meaning that we need to have affordable housing so that our startups and our economies can keep growing. So that's kind of like one of the reasons besides the slush accommodation thing that we need to sort.
Great. Well, at TechChill in 2025, we look forward to celebrating that first stage being complete.
Yeah, and by that time you can actually get from here to Helsinki by train in less than an hour. So that's pretty cool.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, looking forward to the future. We've run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us, Peter. Great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. And see you at Slush.